For today's match, we have Francis playing Nekroz and Renji playing Yosenju. So the player on the left using the doge mat and blue sleeves is Francis, and the person on the right with the orange sleeves is Renji. So respectively, Nekroz and Yosenju. So this is the last recorded game for the January 2015 format. This is at Treasure Chest Games and Collectibles. This is the top table at the locals. Yeah, for a small locals, it's kind of interesting how at least like a quarter of the people there has Nekroz. I did not expect such a casual locals to be like this. The players there are about to begin their dice roll. They're taking their time picking the dice. Well, it's their choice. Francis rolls a 6 and Renji rolls a 4. Francis is going second. That's actually a strange choice going seconds against Yosenju, because Yosenju is known to run a crap ton of floodgates, and if you don't get all the outs, it's really painful. Like if they open Emptiness, Defissure, or Macrocosmos, you gotta actually spend a lot. Like you're losing resources now, and you're not actually gaining them back. Like sure, you can still discard, but it doesn't matter. So Renji opens with a set 4, no monster. Well, obviously he will not summon a monster and reveal any information. But 4 back row, that's potentially a lot of floodgates, but there's also potential that some of those cards are battle reactive traps. Now Francis' turn now. Francis starts his turn off with a Kaleidoscope. Immediately gets Anity's Emptiness gets chained to it. Francis does not have a response. That is not looking good. This is like turn 1 Jinlock, right? Like all over again. Not looking good for Francis here. Francis will have to start digging cards for the Valk loop, so he can at least stall for a bit till he gets his MST, and if he doesn't get MST then, well, at least he tried. Oh, but he does have a prep right, so it's not too bad. He does get to retrieve his Kaleidoscope and add a Bryonac to hand. The Bryonac most likely will immediately be discarded to probably search Valkyries to start looping, because he can't really do anything. No Manju or Senju opening turn. Can't even set a Jin Releaser to chump block hits. And Jin Releaser is actually not too bad against Yosenju, because it has 2000 defense. And that 2000 defense can pretty much block off every single Yosenju monster. But then it'll probably get bounced to hand the turn after. Not immediately, because then it can get reset. Renji draws a card and passes turn. That Valkyries was a free card. Unicorn discards into adding a Bryonac. And I think Bryonac is probably just going to get discarded right away again. Now Renji not having any monster, that's not too good for him. It's like, sure, Francis can't summon, but Renji can't do damage. The advantage is still with Renji, but there's no threats on the board, putting a timer on Francis here. It's not too bad. If Renji doesn't top deck a monster very soon, he's gonna lose his current position, and that's gonna be terrible. So Bryonac has been discarded to add a card. As a Valkyrie, second Valkyrie, so there's 2 Valkyries in Francis' hand now. That's kind of interesting. Potentially he may want to summon one and start a draw engine if he can, but he's mainly just thinning out the deck. Probably preparing to loop for a bit if he's getting really unlucky. That gets cut, passes back. Francis actually sets a card. Well, oh, Renji top decks a monster, a Sujik. Uses his effect and attacks, so that is 2000 damage. End phase, Sujik goes back to hand. See, it's actually okay for Francis to set cards. Well, actually, no, it's not. It's actually not that great to set cards, even though it's a bluff. Oh, Francis top decks an MST. He actually gets out of this Vanities. But there's still 2 face downs. If there's a second Emptiness, I think this game's over. He plays a Kaleidoscope. Does Renji have a response? Just checking his cards. So he's confirming that each ritual spell can only be activated once per turn. Just thinking about the response here. And it goes through. So it's coming from the extra deck, so it's probably going to be the Herald. Summoning a Unicorn. Herald's effect will give Francis a free card. So the free card being a ritual spell or monster. In this case, it was a monster, a Bryanek. Immediately uses Bryanek's effect to search. Has a Shrit to hand. The face down card was a Nekroz Mirror. I just confirmed what the Bryo search was, and pretty much Francis has access to every single ritual monster he wants to summon now. Oh, Renji chains warning. Renji's down 2,000 life points for that warning. But Francis had a Chrysalis, so he gets to dig out the last ritual spell he can activate for the turn, which is Cycle. And considering that Renji has cards on field, hand, and grave, he's most likely going to get Trishulad here. If I was him, I would activate Chain that thing right now if he could, but he probably can't. So Shrit goes out, and Trishula activates. Torrential Tribute is chained to Trishula's effect. However, Trishula will continue to banish cards because cards do not leave the field until the entire chain has been resolved. But Torrential will still wipe the board, so Renji doesn't have to take any damage. What's going on here? I think there is no more place for Francis' side, but he just misplayed quite badly. He forgot to search with Shrit. Renji top decks a common 1 and now swings with 2 monsters, but Valkyries gets activated from hand to end the battle phase. Oh my god, I can't emphasize how terrible that misplay was. He's down to 2 cards in hand where he could have had potential to keep on searching cards with Bryo. This is like one of the misplays that Necroz players should not make, because it is quite fatal. Even though Renji lost all his cards, he did not suffer that badly, because that misplay actually hinders Francis from making plays. Checking his graveyard, I think he realized, well, he's activating one of his mirrors, or one of his ritual spells to search another one. Two cards. That's not very good. He did conserve a bit of life points by using Valkyries' effect. Probably was worth it to conserve it. It's a bit dangerous to play with really low life points because you risk the chance of taking damage in the future and then getting cowboyed. If you block it early, they can't really do that cowboy right away, especially against Yosenju, where the monsters constantly bounce back to hand. So he banishes to add a mirror. He'll probably add again because he doesn't exactly have any plays right now. Yeah, definitely. He has a Shrit. I think he sees the Shrit now. He's like, oh, I totally screwed up there. Just staring at it. It's like staring at his face. Well, that's too bad. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! You make misplays sometimes. He probably got caught up with the Torrential. That he probably forgot about his own Shrit. Banishes a Valkyries, and Which spell is he banishing? He's banishing a mirror. He recently just added one, so I guess that's both mirrors now. He's considering to add another spell, but which spell is he gonna go for? He has a Kaleidoscope and a Cycle. Cycle could probably bring back the Trishula if he gets a Shrit in the future, but Kaleidoscope can let him spam monsters. So he adds a Kaleidoscope. Whoa! That was random interruption there. No, is he actually adding the Kaleidoscope? He's really putting some thought into this. Remember that in an official tournament, a turn can only last 3 minutes per player, or else you'll be given a warning for slow play. So he's adding a Cycle instead of the Kaleidoscope. Yep, the shuffling's gone down. He's passes to cut. That's confirmed.
I got confused. I thought that one was the
Is there any more play after this? Oh, he does have play. Right. He still has a Shrit engraved with that mirror. Summoning out a Valkyrus. Valkyrus attacks. It goes through. 29 damage there. And he sets 1. I think that's one of the cards that I have not seen in his hand yet, considering it's either one of his spells or... I'm not too sure if he runs in MSTs. Oh, he gets MST, so it gets revealed now. Chain, oh, it's a shared ride. So he mainboard shared ride. That's actually not too bad. So Kama 1 and Sujik get summoned. Even if he bounces the Valkyrus, it's not too bad because he can actually block the hit. So he takes 26 and 1,000. So he chooses not to block it because it was not lethal. And I don't think Cowboy can kill him either. Now the monsters are going back to hand, I believe. No, Renji's checking the graveyard to see what can he possibly get with that Cycle.
At this point, Francis said, "Fuck me."
Sorry about the glare. The glare is they're playing right under a light. And with glossy sleeves, the cards will get whited out. Top deck a... Not sure what he top decked just now. But Francis is seriously trying to make plays now. I think he top decked a Shrit. This is Francis' turn. He has to be really careful of not playing into like time. 3 cards in hand. 1 card's a Valk. There's a Cycle for sure. What is that last card? Is that a Unicorn? If it's a Unicorn, he might have more plays. He can actually dig out that Brannock in his graveyard and search. If he can search 2 cards, one from removing one of his spells to get a Kaleidoscope, because that will be his last ritual spell, that's a pretty good play. But if he has nothing now, it's pretty much game over. He could probably summon out his Chrysalis. Oh, he's calculating lethal. Now Renji did take quite a bit of damage from his Warning. He did take a hit from Valk. Warning and Valk together. That's quite a bit of damage. It's 4,900. So if he summons out just a bit more damage, he can totally win. So it was a Unicorn. He adds a Brio into Shrit. So definitely he can get lethal now. Shrit will search. swing at a Clissalis, and with the cycle, he can summon Clissalis into Clissalis. Clissalis does have attack points, and this is enough for lethal. So 29 and 12, and that will be game. Game 1 goes to Francis, and we will move on to Game 2. That was actually a very unfortunate end for Renji. He was actually not doing too bad, considering that Francis did have a major misplay in this game. But I guess we'll have to move on to Game 2. So let's hope that Francis does not make such a big misplay against Yosenju, because he was actually risking losing that game until he got his really good top deck of the Unicorn. But this time Renji will be going second, because Yosenju's probably do want to go second because they don't want to reveal too much information to his opponent before being able to land any sort of attack, since the monsters don't really stay on the field. Francis is going first. Starts off with a Nekroz of Bryanak. Bryanak will search a Unicorn. He did have a Kaleidoscope in his hand, so most likely it will combo into that right away. Yep, here we go. Herald of Arclight will go into the graveyard, giving the Unicorn a summon and a free search for any ritual spell or monster. Again, Francis did not open a Manju or a Senju. He's just going to have to rely on Nekroz monsters to make plays. Bryanak has been added to hand. 4-card hand with a Unicorn on the field. This is very strange. Not a very protective field, but I guess the Bryanak is for next turn. Unless he already has a Valkyrus in hand. But it doesn't really matter. The game is still in its early stages. It's really hard for Yosenju to OTK unless they have absolutely every single Yosenju monster and enough effects to bounce the board and swing for game. Renji opens with a Pot of Duality, revealing a Kama 3, a Sujik, and a Kama 2. Pot of Duality is a really good card since it does not hinder the deck from special summoning, as it doesn't really special summon at all unless you're exceeding. Sujik has been added to hand, sorry. Carefully thinking about the result. Oh, Raigeki goes down! Raigeki will be destroying the Unicorn, and Sujik is summoned. Sujik effect, and attacks. That's 2,000. This card is like a mini Honest or Kalut, 1,000 damage, and it will bounce back to hand. So I guess it's more like an Honest here. So it's 2,000 damage down to Francis. Francis is at 6,000, and with 3 back row, there are potentially floodgates available now. Well, does Francis have the out? I think I do see an MST in his hand. Well, considering he has no monsters on board, most likely he's going to open with searching another spell by banishing the one in his graveyard. Yes. So the Bryanak has been banished for the cost to search a new spell. Considering that he already has a Bryanak in his hand, banishing this Bryo is not a big issue. I also see that Francis did side in some Fire Hand and Ice Hand. Fire Hand and Ice Hand are pretty decent sides against the Yosenju matchup, unless of course they do open Defissure or Macrocosmos. So that Kaleidoscope banish adds a new Kaleidoscope. Bryanak is discarded to add a new card. A Shurret. So most likely another summon's going down with another search for Bryo. Kaleidoscope. Chain. Emptiness. Chain MST. MST will be knocking that vanity out of this field so that the Kaleidoscope will go through. Now what is he using for the Kaleidoscope summon? He's using Shrit. Shrit for Trishula. Trishula will be able to banish 3 cards. So the center card, so the center back row, Vanity's Emptiness. Yes, Vanity's Emptiness and 1 phase down. Make sure that the order is done correctly, or else you reveal too much information that influences the next banish. So, Pot of Duality got banished from hand. Not too bad for Francis. Renji is down to 2 cards, and Francis is at a +2. Adds a Bryo from the Shurit Search. He's not going to forget this time. I mean, last game he made that major misplay. I think he's going to call his chain links from now on. Yeah, calling chain links is actually a good way to remind yourself of which cards you need to activate. So Trishula will attack for 2700 damage. Renji takes it to the face. He doesn't have an option now. Renji top decks. Oh! He top decks a Snatch Steal. Takes the Snatch Steal, summons a Sujik. Sujik's effect, swing for 2027. Oh wow, that's a lot of damage. End phase, Sujik goes back to hand. New standby phase, Snatch Steal will allow Francis to gain 1000 life points.
That's actually what it is right now.
Now, he did use one of his MST to clear the Vanity's Emptiness. Now, does he have one to clear that Snatch Steal? Or better yet, using a monster effect to clear that Snatch Steal, whether it be a Gungnir or another Trishula. So Trishula banish the Snatch Steal so that you can get your other Trish back, and then you can just swing for game at that point. Nope, he is now banishing for another spell. He's banishing the second Kaleidoscope, using the Unicorn's cost. And now he's adding something to hand. He's adding a mirror, because the Schritzengrave, of course the mirror is going to be the most optimal choice. Now what is... So he uses the Brian Neck to discard. Is he searching a Trishula, or... Oh, he doesn't run a second Trishula, so he's going to go with the Decisive Armor to pop the back row and swing over the Trishula, which is not a bad play. Activates the mirror. Oh, Renji chains a second Emptiness, shutting down the entire play. Ooh, this is not good. I think Francis is about to scoop. Yep, he scoops the game because he realizes there's that Trishula that's about to swing into his face for game. Oh, he was too greedy. Should have went with a Valkyris to actually block the attack. Maybe he would have had potential to actually live to see another turn, but not this time. And now we're going to move on to game 3. Now Renji top decked a really clutch card in the last game, which allowed him to pull through from that bad position that he was in. Now he's going to be going first because Francis called second. Yosenju going first really can't do anything except for set up floodgates. Open turn summons a Thunder King. Wow, that's actually really good. Like, of all the turn 1 plays Yosenju's can get, this is probably one of the better ones, and sets 3 cards. Now, this kind of shuts down Francis's hand if it's all search cards, but oh, he summons an Ice Hand. Ooh, this Ice Hand's really good. Attacks into the Thunder King, probably gonna dig out the Fire Hand. Now pops a secret move. Thunder King cannot negate Ice Hand because Thunder King can only negate cards that are inherent special summons. And anything that's summoned by effect does not count. Fire Hand summon, crashes into Thunder King, pops the Thunder King, and no second Ice Hand. I'm going to assume Francis has, yeah, he's showing some of the spectators he has the second Ice Hand in hand. But this does clear off that one-off Thunder King. Summons a comma 1 to a comma 2. Takes damage for both 16 and 18. Both of them end phase, bounce back to hand.
He just bounces stuff on attack. He gets too much advantage from attack. We're gonna lose now.
Now, Francis's turn, drawing. He is down to... He's almost dead, pretty much. One more turn if Renji gets another monster, then Francis will die. And he did take damage for that Thunder King as well. Still really sad about opening double ice, like 2 ice hands, but what can he do? Now there's only 2 back row on Renji's side. If Francis has an out and if there's no emptiness, it should be okay. So Bryanak goes down to search a Shrit. So a big ritual play is about to come.
Hey, how much does he lose when he self-high-fives himself? I don't lose anything for high-fiving myself.
Someone's high-fiving himself.
Anything for saying Neopet yet? No, I'm still at plus like 170. You're minus 170.
Francis plays the Kaleidoscope. Now checks for the response from Renji's side. Renji checks what Bio added, and he's... seriously thinking about what to do. Oh, Chains of Mind Crush. What is he calling? Oh, he calls a Unicore. Oh, that's not good. That's not good because the Kaleidoscope, because he did add a Shrit, and he is about to get Trishula'd. Renji is now forced into a top decking position, with Trishula banishing the remaining cards on the field and hand. Now, I'm not sure if Francis made a misplay there, or he did it intentionally as a bait for Renji to call Unicore, but calling anything but Shrit would have been a misplay at that point. So it just happened to go in Francis's favor. Since Francis did have a Nekroz mirror, he could have activated the mirror, and even if Shrit was called and sent to the graveyard, Shrit can still get banished, and you can still summon that Trishula without burning a Kaleidoscope. Francis drops the second ice hand and swings with it for 14 and swings with the Trishula for 27. Again, Renji is in top deck mode. Maybe he can sack a really good card to turn it around. Probably not. The game is probably in the bag for Francis anyway. So how did he actually get into a top decking position? Since he did have more cards, because he missed the Mind Crush, that actually was a -2 because he lost the Mind Crush and a monster, and then Trishula will pluck the last card on the field and the last card in hand. Oh, a Raigeki goes down. But does that actually matter now? Oh, he top decks a Preparation of Rites. Francis's sack meter is completely full. He's using it all to get the right top decks. With Preparation of Rites, he's adding a Unicore and also adding a Kaleidoscope. He now discards his Bryanak to add the Valkyries to hand. He now plays Kaleidoscope. I think he's gonna go for an OTK at this point. Yeah, it sends a Shooting Quasar Dragon, summons out a Valkyries and a Unicore, and swings for game. The handshake is offered, and this match is over. Well, I hope you guys like that match. I'm Tombox, and your commentator. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. If you see misplays or whatnot, please leave it in the comments section below. Thank you, Francis and Renji, for letting us feature you guys in our final match. And of course, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.